Something about South Florida has always felt slightly out of step with the rest of the country. Fast-growing, image-driven, and shaped by money that often moves faster than the rules meant to contain it. Long before the cocaine era, Miami was already a place where legitimate growth and informal cash economies existed side by side, blending into the same real estate booms, businesses, and development cycles that built the city's identity. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, that balance began to break open. Economic instability and opportunity collided with geography, turning Miami into a gateway for one of the largest illicit money flows in modern American history. The cocaine trade didn't invent this system, it scaled it, exposing how deeply embedded underground capital had already become in the city's foundations. This is the story of how Miami's rise and its outlaw economy became inseparable, and how the forces that shaped that era still echo through the city today.
Florida over the years has gained a reputation for being a quiet, easygoing place. A paradise, so to speak, with miles of beaches and plenty of sunshine. The major industry here over the years, tourism. But that image is changing. South Florida today is riddled with violence. And at the present rate, according to some economists, the state's major industry could soon be drug smuggling. Already a $7 billion a year business in the Sunshine State, and growing all the time. Longtime drug fighter Nick Navarro says times have definitely changed.
When I was stationed in Miami as a federal narcotic agent almost 20 years ago, we didn't have a narcotic problems in Broward County at all. In Dade County, the problem was concentrated just in one small section of town. And I could count in my two hands the number of hardcore addicts that we had in the city at that time. And it hurts me to see it has turned out to be the way it is today, a reputation of being the smuggling capital of the world.
The Drug Enforcement Agency reports 75% of all the cocaine and 90% of all the marijuana smuggled into the United States comes through South Florida. Millions of dollars in cash supports a network of drug banks. The profits for the drug lords have made the local economy recession-resistant. But it is a false economy, which has driven up the prices of homes, cut honest businessmen out of the marketplace, created violence that has overburdened our policemen and our court system, ruined the health of countless teenagers and adults. And relatively little is being done to stop this disease-like spread of what we will call the cocaine economy.
Hot town, summer in the city. Get your VÉHICULE tea now. Smuggling. It's not a job, it's an adventure. Get your VÉHICULE tea now. VÉHICULE. Become ungovernable. Get your VÉHICULE tea now. www.vehiculeshop.com. www.vehiculeshop.com.
By the end of the 1970s, South Florida was struggling with recession, unstable seasonal employment, and rapid immigration. In many neighborhoods, poverty rates remained well above the national average, leaving thousands of residents with limited economic opportunities.
Because there's so many, you never know who's watching you. So I just mind my own business. That's it. I stay in my yard. I see some things and I don't see some things.
According to the U.S. Bureau of the Census, almost 1 out of 5 Dade County residents is living below the poverty level. A March 1977 sample survey showed that poverty here is almost twice the national average for large metropolitan areas. Economic structure is one contributing factor. Trade and service jobs are low-paying. Wage levels in Dade County are traditionally low and slow to catch up to cost of living increases. There are several pockets of poverty in Greater Miami. South Beach, with its high concentration of fixed-income elderly, the black ghettos of the inner city, and a growing segment of Latins. In 6 years, the number of poor people in Dade County jumped from 178,000 to 278,000. Nationwide, poverty levels remained unchanged. The poverty threshold for a family of four in 1976 was $5,815. Over 250,000 Dade County residents are living on less than that per year. A recent congressional study placed Miami 7th worst among 39 cities for employment and income levels. And to make matters worse, the cost of living in Dade County is still one of the highest in the nation.
As legitimate industries weakened, smuggling became an increasingly profitable underground economy. South Florida's geography and proximity to the Caribbean made it a major gateway for illegal trafficking operations.
The drug smuggling operation was based in Miami but used shrimp boats from Key West to drop large quantities of marijuana at storage areas in the Florida Panhandle. The alleged kingpin of the operation is Manuel Villanueva, being escorted here with a towel over his head. His attorney says the Cuban alien is an electrician, but authorities say he was the organizer and financier of the largest marijuana smuggling operation ever uncovered in the United States.
This operation, to give you some scope of the size of it, we estimate that the net income or the gross income to the organization, would have been about $300 million.
Key West shrimpers moved the pot to North Florida, allegedly with the help of the former city attorney of Key West, Manny James. James formerly operated a law practice out of this office. He has not been seen in the Keys for over a year, and James is still at large. Another attorney being sought is Clifford Wentworth of Fort Lauderdale. Federal investigators say he set up business fronts and made real estate deals for the drug smuggling operation. In making the announcement of the indictment from Tallahassee, Department of Law Enforcement Commissioner Jim York says assets and property of those indicted, including this marina and restaurant in Key West, will be seized. So far, only 2 of the 12 are in custody. Villanueva is being held on $20 million bond.
The growing flow of drug money created a need for large-scale money laundering. Over time, banks, real estate, cash businesses, and investment networks became tied to the movement of illegal profits through the local economy.
It's a $7 billion a year retail business. That's about $12,000 for each household in Dade County. Half that amount is returned to South America for the wholesale purchase of even more drugs. $3.5 billion, or more than $2,000 per Dade County resident, stays in South Florida buying real estate, boats, cars.
We've spoken to several businessmen in respect to how good their business is, particularly in the boating business and in the airplane business, and they all say that it's booming even during a period of recession, and they suspect they know where the money comes from, but they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them.
The merchandise is bought to launder money and to make hot money turn cool profits of 300% or more.
Those goods, although they may be expensive here to us, are worth a heck of a lot more in South America. So you can not only get your profits out, you can make a profit on your profits.
If South Florida businessmen are not hooked on drugs, the experts say they can be addicted to drug money. The official voice of the business community figures we stand to lose more than we can ever possibly gain from drug commerce. Our all-important tourism industry is suffering from damning publicity up north.
But while the warm weather still comforts those who retire to Florida, that may well be the only remaining comfort. Miami seems to have become paradise lost.
Tourism industry. We're losing money as a result of it rather than making income. and the image that's been created throughout the country, because we're the front line right now of the illegal drug traffic.
Drug money, by some estimates, is responsible for 1/4 of last year's real estate inflation in South Florida. That has rippled into prices for things we buy every day.
More and more money has to be taken out of the tenants who rent, and therefore when you go to your doctor and he pays more rent, maybe that some of that extra rent he pays that costs you a higher medical fee is going to enrich this illicit industry of investment.
Huge amounts of drug money each year are injected into our real estate market.
I assume that drug money into real estate is just as good news for realtors as drug money is to automobile dealers.
There are thousands of properties worth more than $1 billion that have been bought with illicit money in South Florida. There are many stories of cash green money being brought to homeowners and agents in suitcases and paper bags. Some stories are true.
I know of a particular instance not too long ago where there was $130,000.
So you're saying the drug traffickers are handling $100,000 in green money, the realtor is handling it, the seller of the home is handling it, someone at some bank has got to handle it. It's a daisy chain. It's a poppy chain.
I don't know what the correct frame of reference would be, but it's certainly unusual.
Drugs and money. They go hand in hand in South Florida. Cocaine and marijuana sales through Miami generate so much money that smugglers literally have no place to put it all. The U.S. Justice Department has been investigating where all that money, believed possibly as much as $1 billion, ends up. Federal investigators believe some of that cash, totaling several $million, found its way illegally to at least 4 Miami area banks. For the past year, the case, named Operation Banco, has been under investigation by the Miami FBI and the Drug Enforcement Administration of the Justice Department. What the case involves is called money laundering. A smuggler, after a big drug deal, tries to deposit his money into a bank account without having the government know it's his money or that he made it illegally. It's believed money laundering has been going on in Miami with the help of several local bank officials. The money would be deposited into the bank without any federal forms being filled out, and the government wouldn't know where the money came from. The organization allegedly smuggled more than 1 million pounds of Colombian marijuana into the United States over a 16-month period beginning in 1974. This house at 320 San Marino Drive in Miami Beach was busted by police in 1977 after it was found to be loaded from floor to ceiling with marijuana. Today's 105-page federal indictment charges 14 people who used that location as a drug warehouse. Those named include pilots, boat operators, and even a doctor, now charged with racketeering, kidnapping, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to smuggle narcotics. The indictment charges that 2 Miami men, identified as Robert Platshorn and Robert Meinster, set up a local business here, South Florida Auto Auction, at 2979 Northwest 36th Street, as a front to disguise the true nature of all the money they were making from the scheme.
It's just the beginning. The indictment does address to some extent the financial aspects, the amount of money that's made, and some of the flow of the money. But we're hopeful that our subsequent continuing investigation and subsequent charges will be orientated much more in the direction of finances.
The director of Stryker Yacht Sales in Fort Lauderdale, identified as Mark Phillips, was also named in the case for allegedly using his facility to acquire and outfit boats to run marijuana into South Florida. The organization was so sophisticated, it obtained confidential and sensitive documents from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration to set up its own counterintelligence network. A former Eastern Airlines pilot, identified as Ronald Elliott, allegedly planned just last year to steal an Eastern Airlines 727 type jet to smuggle a load of marijuana into the United States. The case wraps up the first phase of an investigation into drugs and the laundering of money in South Florida. The probe began in 1977 when an internal auditor at the Royal Trust Bank noticed a $7 million increase in check cashing services over a 3-month period. The auditor told a superior at the bank that he suspected a wash, that is, the laundering of illegal funds through legal channels. The activity was reported to federal authorities by bank officials who cooperated fully in the subsequent investigation, which in part culminated with today's arrests.
competition between criminal organizations fueled corruption, intimidation, and violence. By the early 1980s, gang-style shootings and public assassinations had become a regular occurrence on the streets of Miami.
It's a cop coming in.
They call them the Cocaine Cowboys. Yesterday, they struck busy Dadeland shopping mall shortly after 2, executing 2 Latin males in the Crown liquor store, hitting 2 employees and spraying the parking lot with bullets. Innocent bystanders dove for cover. Coppers were riddled with machine gun fire, gas tanks spilling out, smashed trucks and liquor bottles flying. Inside the liquor store, 1 Colombian national and another non-Cuban Latin suspected in drug trafficking lay face up in a pool of blood.
The shootout occurred at about 2:30 when 2 Latin males entered the Crown liquor store at the west end of the Dadeland Mall. Now the clerk was making their order. 2 more Latin men entered the store and began firing. There was exchange of fire between the 2 groups. Right now, 2 people are dead, and there are others injured. Right now, I don't know the exact amount. They're a little armed, we can say that, and they said prepare to do battle. A worker in the store was wounded in the shoulder. The shooting continued outside as this eyewitness, who asked not to be identified, explained.
I ran up into the corner of the building at the liquor store and saw a man speeding out of this big family towards the cars. And after they fled, I went over and lifted the car and found some men underneath with shot both ankles.
The man hiding under the car was another liquor store worker. The assailants sprayed gunfire all around the parking lot. Shell fragments were found some 40 yards from the store. The getaway delivery van marked Happy Time Party Supplies was then dumped in the mall's north parking lot. Inside were several rifles, pistols, and shotguns, some ammunition and flak vests. Officers searched the surrounding neighborhood for more than an hour but turned up no suspects. The bodies of the victims were not removed from the scene until 8 this evening. Identities have not yet been released. Other information about the murders is still sketchy as the investigation and search for suspects continues.
The gunmen came more than well-equipped. Metro detectives envy their artillery. Sources in the Public Safety Department trying to piece together the shootout say it now appears the gunmen too are Colombians, that they weren't planning to leave behind their well-stocked, expensive armored van, but they panicked. Maybe because of heavy traffic around the mall, or because of confusion about their escape route, or because of witnesses. It is also thought the men might have fled on foot westward on Kendall Drive because police quickly converged on the area. What we encountered at Dadeland Mall today was a reluctance by the employees of stores adjacent to Crown Liquors to talk to us. They said that whether they saw anything or just simply heard anything, they feared talking to us, being identified on television, and possibly being sought out by the killers. The fact that this is the first day drug shootout in which bystanders were shot has people concerned.
You know, you don't know wherever you go can happen any place now.
One of 2 men killed during a hail of machine gun fire at Dadeland Mall Wednesday was identified as a major cocaine dealer wanted by federal authorities. The man, 38-year-old Jermaine Pinesso, was named in a 1978 New York indictment by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration.
We've identified Mr. Pinesso as a large-scale international narcotics trafficker. Was at the time he was murdered, wanted by DEA for continuing narcotics trafficking. He's identified as a top-notch official in one of the 5 Colombian narcotics rings that we've identified.
Homicide detectives say Pinesso and 22-year-old Juan Carlos Hernandez of the Dominican Republic were killed by a rival Colombian cocaine group in retribution for the April 23rd killing of Jaime Sescun by Pinesso's gang. Dade County police predict even more killings as the warfare continues between the rival drug factions. They say there may be as many as 2 other specialized drug wagons, similar to the one used in the Dadeland killings, now on the road somewhere in South Florida.
And it's designed in this fashion to prevent rip-offs by other narcotics groups, other factions, and also to prevent the police from stopping this van and making any seizures.
Just a minute, told these victims that just made it impossible for me to determine the exact shot. take your time. I'm going to try to explain it more exactly when I do this performance examination. But God knows I don't know how many times these people missed up.
These latest victims are numbers 161 and 162 on the Dade County 1979 homicide roster. At least 42 of the names on that list are victims of Miami's drug wars, most gangland-style murders within the Colombian cocaine network. Twice before, submachine guns were used in executions. March 17th, the Diaz cousins machine-gunned in their Cadillac outside a Miami disco. May 29th, Jesus Hernandez, a submachine barrage tore him apart in his car on a busy southwest street at noon. And others. So many others that the first 7 months of 1979 have been called the bloodiest in South Florida's history. Estimates are that as many as 100,000 illegal Colombian aliens are living and working the drug trade in South Florida. The Miami-Colombian connection is 80% of a $20 billion annual cocaine business that spans some 40 U.S. cities. It's almost impossible to stem the tide of dealers and couriers. They come from Colombia by boat and plane to Nassau, from there to Bimini and on to Miami on speedboats, fishing boats, and planes. From Miami, they travel to large Colombian settlements in New York and New Jersey. They use several passports from different countries. If caught, they bond out of jail or agree to deportation and vanish, only to reappear in a week, a month, with a new identity and a new deal. As Colombian drug bosses move into U.S. distribution, they become protective of their territories. Shoot-em-up executions are warnings to other bosses. But public involvement, like the shopping center killings, is something new. The
You say the word Colombians, many people think of cocaine cowboys and millionaire drug smugglers, mostly because 90% of all the cocaine and marijuana smuggled into the United States comes from the South American country. But former Colombian President Alfonso López Michelsen says the cocaine cowboy image has given respectable, hard-working Colombians a bad name.
There are few Colombians that are connected with the drug traffic, as there are few Americans that are connected with the drug traffic.
The former president adds that blaming Colombia for America's drug problem is ridiculous. During Prohibition, he said, no one blamed the British for making scotch.
Homicide rates climbed sharply during the late 1970s and early 80s. The period became known as the era of the Cocaine Cowboys, marked by escalating violence tied to the cocaine trade.
Miami lately that a special refrigerated truck is now being used by the Dade Medical Examiner's Office to store all the bodies, packed with murder victims. Over the past 48 hours, there have been 8 murders. Local homicide detectives say Miami's in the middle of a narcotics war between Colombian and Cuban drug dealers. Dade's chief medical examiner, Dr. Joe Davis, says the situation here is out of control because of all the criminal aliens now in greater Miami.
Well, it's pretty bad. In fact, it's probably the worst I've ever seen. It isn't the matter of, say, a mass murder, with several people killed at once in a family. It's isolated, separate murders taking place one after another. The majority of them appear to be part of the same Latin criminal element that infests this community. What I think is drugs.
Dade's chief medical examiner says he expects the murder rate to continue rising in this community as long as the drug-related violence and the illegal aliens remain throughout South Florida.
Dade County's 1981 homicide rate reached 531, compared to 470 at this time last year. There were 573 total homicides in 1980, but in the past 5 days alone there have been 10 murders. Since November 1st, Metro Police have been called to homicide scenes all over Dade County. Bodies have been found in Hialeah Gardens, West Dade, Miami Beach, North Miami, 3 in Coral Gables, 2 in Liberty City, and 1 in Homestead. It's believed that 5 of the 10 murders are the result of wars between rival drug dealers. and police say drug-related homicides usually go up during the last 2 months of the year.
At the end of the year, the South American violators go back to their home country for the holidays. They leave a lot of debts behind, and they send the word to the United States to collect their debts, and to collect one way or the other, either in cash or by killing a debtor.
In 1980, the Mariel boatlift brought more than 100,000 Cuban migrants into South Florida in a matter of months. Along with refugees and working-class families, the influx also included criminals and violent offenders, adding new pressure to an already overwhelmed Miami police system.
There have been 8 murders in Dade in just the past 48 hours, most of them involving Mariel refugees. Early today, a policeman was killed in a car crash while chasing a Mariel robbery suspect. The Mariel bad guys are not novice criminals. They had records in Cuba before Castro sent them here last year. Many of them, being detained at the Atlanta Penitentiary, are being released by order of a federal court. Today, Dade County's medical examiner had some tough comments on the subject. They qualify as a guest editorial opinion.
Castro put a good one over on us. Despite what the federal judge up in Atlanta says, there are a lot of criminals who came over, and we are paying the price now, and no one in Washington is doing a thing about it. We've been invaded by what the science fiction buffs would call aliens from outer space. These guys are spaced out. They're psychologically totally not even human. They're animals. Not even animals. That's an insult to the animal kingdom. They have no human attributes whatsoever. And there is not a single soul, or in the judicial level, who appreciates the fact that the system we have in this country is set up for human beings, not for people who are not even members of the human race. And incidentally, I think it's important to remember that there are people in the world who are wicked and who are evil, and not necessarily sick or maladjusted, as many of our social workers would have us believe.
Dr. Joe Davis, Dade's chief medical examiner.
In 1981, a widely circulated article titled "Paradise Lost" portrayed Miami as a city overwhelmed by crime, drugs, and corruption. The coverage intensified national concerns about the city's reputation and stability.
Crime in Miami is up and tourism is down. When tourism is down, so is South Florida's economy. The city looks peaceful and prosperous from here. A new luxury hotel over there at Brickell Point, construction cranes on the skyline over there at Ball Point. But tourism officials are deeply worried, and they held an emergency meeting this morning trying to map plans to revive the flagging tourism business. They want to make Miami Paradise Regains, what Time magazine this week calls Paradise Lost.
The cover story blasting a headline, "A Paradise Lost, South Florida." The 9-page article inside focused primarily on Miami as the troubled center of drugs, crime, and refugees. But it also mentioned Fort Lauderdale as the 8th most crime-ridden city in the United States, a fact not well received by Broward County's $2.6 billion a year tourist industry. President of the Broward Hotel Association, Marco Milibar, says the article is heartbreaking.
Just it's another bad article, another sensational article on an unpopular topic, and or rather popular, but not say family and wholesome.
Local officials, law enforcement, and residents recognize the growing impact of the drug wars. But without sustained federal resources and national coordination, efforts to contain the violence and corruption remained limited.
Willing to use the gun that you're carrying around with you now?
Yes, I will. If I see the guy I saw, which I remember his face, and the other 2 guys, the fat guys.
We all carry guns. My wife carry guns. My 2 sons are carrying guns. You see that I have a shotgun loader in my house, and we're gonna shoot someone if the same thing is planning to come to us.
It's worth you going to jail for.
It is worth going to jail than getting killed. I could have, right now, I think if my other boy was carrying a gun, he wouldn't be dead. He might be in jail, but he wouldn't be dead at this time. He will still be alive.
Speaking of the Florida drug problem, U.S. Senator Lawton Chiles says we are in the process of losing an undeclared but very real war, and we are not doing much to defend ourselves against the enemy. Yet most Floridians seem to be aware of the problem.
Every decent person should care about it, I hope.
What I see, I don't like.
All you ever hear about is people getting killed, and then it's all drug related.
I think it's pretty sad what Dade County has gotten to.
But the public outcry so far has been barely audible. The Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce 5 weeks ago held a drug conference with community leaders, but little has come of that event. And lawmen say they need community support.
People have to get involved. That's the only way.
I think there's a degree of acceptance beginning to develop in Florida, an apathy, if you will, that there's nothing that can be done about it, so they just turn their backs to it and seem to just ignore the whole problem.
Our heads are buried in the sand. Let's take out the heads out of the sand and look at it like it is. Yes, we do have a big problem regarding drugs down here in South Florida.
And in Washington, says Senator Childs, Congress has no perception of the drug problem. Many local officials say they have to have federal help.
But you're going to have to quit treating this national problem that we have here in this area as a local problem and put the resources and money and people and agents in here to cope with it.
Others say it is up to the people to demand action, right congressmen in Washington, even the president.
Local economist Charles Kimball predicts if the drug trade continues at the present rate for 10 more years, the state will be economically dependent on drug dollars, not to mention what social impact growing violence and drug use will have on our culture. Without a doubt, South Florida has to get a grip on the growing drug problem, or the Sunshine State could easily become the drug state.